Finish all of these.
For those wondering later, the flag is over there by the door, so we'll do the pledge. Aiden, you're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Congratulations.
Oh, yay.
See that? You're getting picked on now.
You probably shouldn't move fast.
Well, we got 2 minutes. Anybody want any more cookies? Go for it if you want.
I'm good.
You sure?
When? You look good.
They are.
Just think.
Gotcha. She's too short.
I'm surprised we haven't had more kids come in with their government assignment. I've had one do an interview so far, and he's the first student that we've had come in for it. When's it due?
After break?
So we're all gonna get hit probably in January, you're telling me?
Yeah.
Great.
They usually call them 10 at once.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking for organizational meeting, we may relocate for that meeting, because generally people that are up for positions will all show up, so I don't know how we're gonna. But we'll cross that bridge after this. Or Davis volunteered 78 Thompson's garage area or something, so we'll make it happen. We've got slick internet there, so it's not like we have an internet issue there. 2-minute warning. Did you have a good time at the parade?
How about you?
Once I thawed out, it was great.
I actually stayed warm. I get those fleece lined tights. I swear by them.
Darn it all, I didn't have my fleece lined tights.
Do you have on your electric underwear?
No. No, I did not.
He really doesn't know.
He's writing in his notes right now for his class. The mayor denied having electric underwear.
We're not on mute currently, right?
No, we're not.
So everyone's just hearing that.
I have a sense of humor during that.
The conference microphone is right here with the blue light on, closest to Ben and Mary, so make sure you're projecting.
I will.
Well done. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Aiden Bryan.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the only regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa in the month of December 2024, as we are usually a one-meeting scenario in December as a gift to our staff. However, we may be talking about a special meeting later in this meeting, so that might be out the window, but nonetheless, welcome. Let's go to minutes. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the November 25th, 2024 meeting be approved? Trustee Fandesa?
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion.
I'll just make the comment that still feel like the minutes are a little in terms of representation among board members. I made a number of comments last meeting. It said in the minutes, it says Trustee Baskin wanted several changes to the minutes, period. No explanation. Then it says Trustee Van Densen Perez declined to accept the changes, saying that minutes are a summary of the meeting can be viewed online. So some explanation when it comes to what she represented. So it's better than it was, it's not as egregious as previous times, I'll probably just abstain as a result, but I still just want to note, I feel like it's still in balance.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
Opposed? Abstention?
I'll abstain.
There you go. And it is approved. The minutes are approved. No presentations. Let's go to public comment on agenda items only. I'm going to let you know, however, that we have 3 additional agenda items that I will tell you about right now so that we can cover them public comment-wise right here, right now. First will be a motion to approve Donald Traver as a member of the Historic District Commission immediately, with his term expiring no earlier than December 31st, 2026. A second motion is to approve change order number 1 of the Ballston Spa Public Library renovation work contract between Bunkoff General Contractors Incorporated and the Village of Ballston Spa related to additional waterproofing work/expenses totaling $4,235 and authorizing the mayor to execute the related paperwork. We'll end right there with that because the village attorney has reviewed it and approved it from a legal perspective already. And number 3, a motion to approve a sum not to exceed $20,000 for work related to replacement or related work for a clay pipe in Wiswall Park, in addition to the already approved contract related to such work by BP Excavation LLC, and authorizing the mayor to execute such a change order after review by the village attorney if the Department of Public Works leadership provides guidance to the mayor recommending such a change order. So those 3 will be added to basically GH and I. Those will be for tonight's agenda items. So those can be discussed right now in this public comment session. And anybody have a comment they would like to make, now would be the time. If you're on Zoom, you want to make comment, please raise your hand at this time. I see no hands so far. That lull everybody to sleep with that rendition of GH and I. Okay, then we will move on here. Got to get a motion. We don't have a consent agenda tonight because there weren't enough items to really constitute one. Got to get a motion authorizing the use of Eagle Mat Lee Fire Company number 1 for a private party on December 28, 2024 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Trustee Fandesa.
I'll second.
Trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Got to get a motion authorizing the use of Eagle Mat Lee Fire Company number 1 for a private party on January 18th, 2025 from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Baskin?
I'll second.
Trustee Fandesa, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the hire of Daniel Parent as the Department of Public Works employee effective Tuesday, December 10th, 2024?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Raymond.
I'll second.
Trustee Fandesa, you're just beating around. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the hire of Alan Hilton as a Department of Public Works employee effective Tuesday, December 10th, 2024?
I'll make.
I'll give it Trustee Baskin.
I'll second.
Tru-
One second. I'm
Trustee
sorry.
Raymond, discussion?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the New York State Volunteer Firefighter Cancer Benefit Program Option 1 proposal for coverage and authorizing the mayor to execute proper related documentation? Trustee
I'll
Fandesa.
second.
Trustee Price Bush, discussion.
Is this a routine annual thing that we do, or is this something new?
Chief, yes?
Yes.
All right, and we don't want the slightly more expensive option?
We were told 1 was fine. Go ahead.
1 is the plan we have been in since inception, so that's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the Committee on the Arts be granted permission to set up lawn signs in Wiswall Park, or in the case of construction, Wiswall Park, Old Iron Spring Park, during the month of April 2025. There will be 1 haiku put up every day for the 30 days of April, which is Poetry Month. The signs will be taken down by May 3rd, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee
Second.
Baskin, Trustee Raymond, discussion. Go ahead.
I spoke with members of the committee on there, and they would rather not have the Iron Spring be the backup. They just feel it's just not used.
That's not what they told Jennifer originally. Jen, what was the conversation you had?
It was, they needed to go somewhere else if there was a construction issue, so if they've changed their mind and would rather the backup be something else, they just didn't know.
Yes, I have emails saying that they would definitely rather not be in Iron Spring and would look for other opportunities. Hopefully,
For now, why don't we approve it as the alternative, and if they want to change it from there, at least.
Well, can we just take out the contingency for now, or in the case of construction, Roosevelt Park?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, Ben, there's gonna be construction in Wiswall Park. I don't see how it's gonna be avoidable, so they're gonna have to go elsewhere probably. We do not want to advocate people in the park during that construction.
Well, what construction do you think will happen?
The entirety of the walkway, conduit for electricity, some of the water underpinnings still,
So it'll be most of the park.
it could be, yeah, and that's why I'm
Right.
saying, let's give them a contingency, but then if they want another contingency, it's way early still, we got time.
So we'll change it if we have to.
Absolutely.
'Cause this is not what they want. All right.
Right, but if they can't name me another location, then at least give them the
Well, it'll be
alternative.
along the roads or, public areas.
Okay, well, then they probably should write that a little bit more formally as a
All
plan.
right.
Yep. All in favor of what the current motion is? Opposed, motion carries. Let's go to G, which is, can I get a motion to approve Donald Traver as a member of the Historic District Commission immediately, with his term expiring no earlier than December 31st, 2026.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa,
I'll second.
trustee Price Bush, discussion.
So
Okay,
this just came up. I read his application, but it's not clear what relevant background he has for this commission.
he was on this commission.
But for some reason, he was forced to leave.
No, he decided he didn't have the time at that point in time for it. Don, if you want to speak for yourself?
Yes, I mean, the first time I had to resign because I was brought back into the office to do the treasurer work. So I had to resign, you can't have two positions for the conflict of interest. The second
I don't know if
time,
that's true.
It is true.
It is true, according to the clerk, just to be
the
clear.
second time I resigned because I had other obligations. I'm an officer with, the union and stuff.
We do have people on multiple committees now. Just not, what is?
Well, no, he was actually he was an employee of the village, is what he was saying the first time.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve change order number 1 of the Balsas Spa Public Library renovation work contract between Bunkoff General Contractors Incorporated and the Village of Balsas Spa related to additional waterproofing work / expenses totaling $4,235 and authorizing the mayor to execute the related paperwork?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Price Bush?
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve a sum not to exceed $20,000 for work related to replacement or related work for a clay pipe in Wiswall Park, in addition to the already approved contract related to such work by BP Excavation LLC, and authorizing the mayor to execute such a change order after review by the village attorney if Department of Public Works leadership provides guidance to the mayor recommending such a change order?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Price Bush?
I'll second.
Trustee Fandesa, discussion.
Can
Yes.
you expand?
Yes, I can. Yes, I knew that was coming. There's this disagreement a little bit about the state of the pipe, and so instead of trying to, have a situation where everybody had to run over there today to look at it and figure out what to do, right now we're preemptively giving the authority in case we didn't do it again for some reason. And Scott Kearns and company are going to meet up with Labella. Labella is sort of in this mindset of what they're proposing is probably a little too expensive for what it entails, and so they're going to work with them on that aspect of it. But also, Scott wants to make sure that it's needed work, that it's something that's absolutely needed for that kind of price tag in the first place. So this, again, is kind of more or less hey, Labella calls up, says, hey, we need to at least try to get authority tonight, and then we'll figure out what to do with it over the next few days.
So is it replacement of the clay pipe?
It would likely be replacement of clay pipe, or at least a piece of the clay pipe, I think is where they're heading with this.
Okay.
So I saw a photo of it. They're claiming it's disintegrating somewhat, but we've handled that pipe ourselves before, and we didn't see that level of wear on it, I guess. And that's where I think some of the discussion has come from on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is that it? Okay. Let's see here. I swear. There's announcements. Thank you to the BSBPA and to everybody that was involved with respect to the holiday parade on Friday. Despite the weather, despite the cold, we had a really good attendance, I thought, overall, and a lot of candy eaters all along the route, as us three, I think, can attest to, especially as we were falling behind. You were way ahead of us, I think, at a certain
I
point.
didn't have candy.
Yeah, see that? But it was a fun time, and Santa lighting the tree was great. Ted's Fish Fries on wheels down by the firehouse with Real McCoy, and having Santa Eagle Matt Lee was really nice, which was a change because normally they're at the SMB, but this year they weren't willing to go that route with us for various reasons. So long story short, I thought it was extremely successful. Luckily the weather sort of corrected itself after an up and down week. And again, thank you to VSBPA for all they've done with respect to that parade. As you all know, Jeff Garies did retire after that parade, more or less, Saturday. And again, well wishes to him and his family, as he wanted to really spend a lot more time with his family as a grandfather. And we're going to have a discussion during executive session on some stuff related to what's next for DPW, essentially. So if there will likely be a motion, I would have to predict now. So if you want to stick around for that, you're more than welcome to. We'll do executive session in my office, or they can stay out here crowd-wise. So just be aware of that. Beyond that, we're still working with John Street water tower situation and the cell carrier status. The snow coming a little earlier than assumed may have thrown off a little bit of the temporary pole situation, but also with the rain over the next couple of days and temperatures near 50, we may get enough meltage that they can get back to where they can get those poles planted into the ground, the tent poles, and we'll still discuss the permanent monopole that could be about 180 feet tall down the line as a permanent solution to keep the cell tower equipment off of the water tower to protect it for the future. I think that's it. If I think of anything else, I will let you know, but I will read you off the treasurer's report here, which is a reminder that meter cards were mailed out at the end of November. They've arrived on or before December 1st, and a reminder everybody to fill them out, return them within 30 days to avoid the $50 fee for not reading your meter in 30 days, meaning by December 31st, I believe, 2024. We have finalized the AFR for fiscal year 2024. It's been filed with the Office of the State of New York Comptroller's Office. As you may have seen, we have changed our payroll service starting January 1st, so they're working on the implementation of that to go live in just a few weeks. It looks like they're ready to go, and they're also working with Lifetime Benefit Solution based on what we were talking last meeting about the HRA plan to get the enrollment paperwork completed, and I believe I signed off on that today, actually. And so they're going to learn how to best fund the account so we're not putting too much money into it. We'd rather hold our own money, but obviously we don't want debits to be constantly taken out of our main accounts either, because that'll add to their work. So we're trying to create the right balance for that. Mortgage tax, looks like there was an increase overall for the county. The distribution was about $35,000. That's not a record high for us, but I believe that is better than last year at the same period. We got an ACH deposit on that. Sales tax for the county has been a very interesting thing to watch. November sales tax was down 5.6% for the same period last year. That generally means 2 months earlier, which would have been September. Sales tax year to year in September was 5.6% less. We received obviously even worse than that because our assessment does not grow the same way that the town's assessments grow in the county. And it's based on assessment growth or assessment value, the ratio that everybody gets. Year to date, sales tax is only up in the county by 0.07%. So it has wiped out all the gains that we had seen earlier in the year. So something to keep track of and watch for, because discussion about the economy is interesting. What I'm curious to see is January's, because after we got past Election Day, there seemed to be a resurgence of people actually going out, dining out and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that it was a temporary, everybody was nervous about the election kind of glitch, and we'll see if it resolves itself starting in January with the November payment. Bank reconciliations have been done for the month of November 2024. The Board of Trustees has been emailed those, and that is all for that. Liaison reports, we will start with Trustee Raymond and DPW.
So first, I want to thank Scott Kearns, who's now providing reports for DPW.
Good luck, just in case.
Okay, yeah. I want to thank Scott Kearns, who is now providing the reports for DPW. And based on what he sent me, DPW will be working on finishing picking up leaves and brush, going to attempt the entire village again, now that the snow hopefully will melt off the leaves. ADA sidewalks on Mechanic Street, apparently we have to do that to get some CHIPS money.
Yep.
And then we're gonna have 2 staff that will be taking their test for their gas tank license. I assume that's the tanker CDL. And 1 guy is currently in CDL school. And then they plan on finish winterizing hydrants and starting on the ice rink, weather permitting, as they transition from dress retirement. I just want to say Jeff has been an incredible asset to this village, and having a actual DPW superintendent, I believe is critical to the village. I think that having a separation from the collective bargaining staff and then a management staff is very helpful, and I think it provides that correct amount of separation. And I hope in the future that we consider filling that position.
Bernadette.
Starting with the Business Association, just a reminder, December 18th at 6 o'clock at the Brickyard is their annual holiday mixer. Encourage folks to be there. So I see a lot of you usually go anyway. Also this Thursday, don't forget there is a ribbon cutting for Miss Priss Boutique, which is a new business on Front Street. That starts at 4 p.m. on Thursday. And again, thank you to the VSBPA for all their work to get Shop Small Saturday going and the parade. It's just usually a really good way to just bring attention to our downtown community and our small businesses. Zach, Matt just had some updates. The zoning advisory committee met on December 5th and discussed area and bulk schedule. And there's, shocker, a lot of lots that don't conform currently with the code. So the next meeting will be December 19th. Anna Stanko is providing data to the committee, and they're going to be making some recommendations to the consultant about what the new area and bulk schedule could look like for the code. They also are working, they're on track for to have a full draft code by the end of December, and that they will be refining it hopefully by February, it says. And then they'll have a second public workshop discussing the draft on March 20th. And then our fire department, thank you, Mike, for always getting me these. The fire department had 94 emergency calls in the months of October and November. The number of them were general alarms, and one working structure fire, on West North Street, which everybody here is familiar with. There was also 20 mutual aid structure fire responses. Overall, there was more than 700 man-hours of emergency response during that time. And overall, for 2024, there have been 459 responses, which totals to 5,200 man-hours, which is incredible. Training, our guys are always on top of their trainings. They had 4 department drills and 6 individual company trainings. Equates to 400 man hours. And then just an update on Union Engine 142. It's been repaired after installing a new transmission and transfer case, and it's back in service. Fire police vehicle M36 is out of service with electrical issues again. Just trying to touch on, again, they're committed to fire prevention education. October had Fire Prevention Education Week, National Fire Prevention Week, and they did 35 different sort of efforts with their local schools and preschools. That was 120 man hours of fire safety education to the children in the village. And then also they had recently sent out annual fund drive mailings, and folks are encouraged to consider donating to their local firehouse. But that fund is used for the educational programs that they work on. Some of you folks have seen it, what they do at the fairground. They build like actual practical sets where kids can learn about what to do in cases where they might come across a fire. And it goes to other youth programs in the community. And just to update, just very briefly, Chief Bayshore, Assistant Chief Crow, Sean, Raymond, Pete Martin, and myself, we met together, 5 of us, and discussed kind of, what could be done in the future, thinking about the fire contract. Overall, I know Frank's going to be talking about some of this later. The discussion, the chiefs had expressed to us that they would like us to consider taking the fire contract that has been presented to the village board from the town of Millen. But that's all I got for updates right now. It's a lot of stuff. All right.
They would like us to take the
We'll get
contract,
more
is that-
deeply into that in a little bit, so just stay tuned. Let's get through this, and then I think it's the next thing up. So, Mary, go ahead.
Okay, breakfast with Santa was a success.
Oh, I forgot to thank everybody for that earlier. Thank you. That was my bad.
Over 200 breakfasts were served, and quite a few people from the community contributed and supported it. Bernadette performed, bakers. Ellie, I think you might have been part of the bakers making cookies, Ribbon Cafe.
Our committee sent the lunch.
Yeah, everything's delicious. Union Fire Company and Eagle Netley
Yeah,
helping
we
out.
underscore that too, because they gave a lot of stuff personally, I know, in that respect. So thank you to both fire companies on that one for sure.
Especially thank you to St. Mary's for letting the events committee have it there. So it was a nice event. Everyone seemed to have a great time. Construction continues on the library, and I don't think there's been any complaints with how things are functioning at the library, which is great. Francine Duca from the Boston Area Seniors made a presentation at the last meeting, and again, membership dues are due, and if anybody's wondering if they want to join or not, there's still a few events going on for the month of December. They're having a dinner on the 12th and a luncheon, a meeting, and bingo and chorus to sing Christmas songs at 12:30 on the 19th. So if you want to check them out, they're always busy. And the menorah lighting will take place in Wiswell Park December 26th at 7 p.m. And that's what.
How in the world do you write that small and read that for that matter? Holy cow.
Yeah, it was pretty small, but
Trying to fit that rice.
No kidding. Couldn't read it if I needed to. Go ahead, Ben.
Committee on the Arts, we just did the haiku motion. I found the email saying if Wiswall's out of the question, we would probably seek to put them someplace other than Iron Spring, like tree boxes or something visible, but they'll cross that bridge when they come to it. But we'll probably have to revisit that later. The next Sounds in Winter concert is January 18th at 3 p.m. Saratoga County History Center, Brookside Museum. In the Long Room, it's a classical concert string theory trio, it's called. It's free, but space is limited, so they ask you to pre-register at Brookside Museum, at the Brookside Museum website. And then it's a slow time of year for Park and Tree Board. They just wanted people to know that their next meeting is December 17th at 7 p.m.
One thing I should add, as you were talking about tree boxes, so you may have noticed that a few trees have been taken down on Route 50 around the Methodist Church. When Dana Wilmer and I were walking to do the no parking notices, we noticed that we definitely have to expand that beyond those 3 to effectively do what we're trying to do, which is phase 1 in the fall, take down the trees, take out the stumps, and take out as much root area as we can access in the tree boxes. In the spring, take off those panels all through that were affected by heave especially, and that's about 5 to 6 trees worth of heave that we found there. Take out the remainder of the roots when we get underneath that cement. We will retain tree boxes in those so that we can replant a tree later on, but have the DPW do the panels, redo them, a nice level sidewalk finally, because it was pretty hellacious. It seems to be getting worse and worse every year, to be honest with you, over there. And walking with Dana, I really got a good flavor for it, which we were already working on it, but I actually was more appreciative of it as we were going through there, and the business owners are extraordinarily appreciative of the idea. The following year, probably we'll just rinse and repeat on the other side of the street with doing a fall approach on the tree takedown and any replacement in the following spring 2026. But I think this is a good start. I think this also lets our insurers know that we are working on a plan with the resources we have. And so, if God forbid somebody try to sue the village, then we would have the ability to say that we are working on this as quickly as we're able to, because it is not a small undertaking, to say the least, over there.
I do suspect we may need to alter or amend our sidewalk law if we're doing sidewalks now, taking responsibility for those.
No, because we talked about this last time. Technically, it's a disturbance we created or that we took on by a DOT. But DOT's trees, we are responsible for them at this point, and because they're what created a heave, and we've done this in other areas where our village trees have created a heave to that degree, it's on us to fix what we've created ultimately. When it comes to tree roots into sewer pipes, if it's a village tree, we ask them to provide us TV of the roots going into the pipe to verify it, but then we're responsible to do what we need to do to rectify that situation.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I think we should do it. And as you know, I'm all for the village taking over responsibility for sidewalks everywhere. But I'm not sure the law reflects what we're doing. It's
Carla?
something to look at.
Come on in. Hey there, Carla.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me appear remotely. I think we looked at this last time when this came up at the last meeting, and I believe it's in the code. I will pull it up now and look at it while you all are talking about other things, or I can look at it tomorrow and get something back to you. How would you like to handle it?
Yeah, no rush on that. I'd rather have you give us a good answer.
Thanks for checking.
Answer. Okay. Let's go to old business, Milton Fire Protection District number 1 contract. So you heard what Bernadette had to say about the meeting Sean, Chief Baker were at. Ben had reached out last week to ask if we had officially asked for a response to the $35,000 proposal we talked about last time, which was essentially the village's requesting that the town of Milton provide an additional $35,000 in 2025 for the fire contract, which would keep them under tax cap still, because I think they had $39,000 of space according to the preliminary budget. I don't believe they changed that scenario at all. So, and in return, we would pony up, basically, I kind of, in the back and forth, up the assumption we could go up another $25,000 ourselves, committing it to building improvements or truck reserve, basically dealer's choice. in that down the line, because we've been trying to figure out the best way to show the skin in the game we have as a village. That's always the question. We have plenty of skin in the game. It's just a question of it doesn't show itself and say, hi, we're the village's fire money out of their taxes and everything else. So for $35,000, we put in $25,000. The town of Ballston's putting in another $25,000-ish if they go to $1.13, which they've asked us for a contract representing that for next year. So all told, that would be about $85,000 additional. We need about $150,000 to be able to afford both the pumper truck and the ladder truck payments eventually, because those payments are around $330 a year, but we have $180,000 of debt that will retire in fiscal year 27-28. So the difference is $150. We need to try to improve what we're taking in or providing ourselves by that amount to get both trucks. Spoke with Supervisor Ostrander and said, hey, he never did give us a formal response to the $35,000 proposal, as Ben, you were asking what developed there. He said, well, you're gonna have to talk to Councilman Froelich now, because now the fire contract is under his watch. So I reached out to him on Friday, and he was unfortunately busy cooking for firefighters that day, but I told him I was jealous. I wasn't gonna get to taste any of his good cooking, but he did call me today, and we had a good conversation. He wasn't leaning toward it at first, but I broke the news to him that, look, if we don't get something more from Milton, I don't know how we go place an order for a ladder truck right now, which has a lead time of about 3 years, but we've got to see something to know that we've got at least something coming toward a ladder truck before we start ordering a $2.25 million piece of apparatus, maybe up to $2.5 million, depending on where it is. And to delay another year would make it probably even more expensive, because that's the only direction things are going currently. We talked about, the village is committed to putting more skin in the game with a LoSAP program. He's got some ideas and thoughts from how Rock City has handled theirs, or what's happened in certain years, and is happy to help us out with that. But the question about next year, I said, look, our board would like at least to understand why not, if not, or maybe we can, because this seems like a great win-win, a good faith scenario heading into a period where next year we can have your group and a group of their choosing to sit down and try to hammer out a 3 or 4 year agreement, because unlike Supervisor Ostrander had said to me in the past, Councilman Froelich actually is in favor of a longer term agreement, knowing that we sort of need assurances down the line that we're going to get this money every year for 3 or 4 years to start building up the pot that we need to build up to afford, especially the ladder truck. If we just sat here and took no increase from Milton, the concern is this: we're gonna have to pay $90,000 a year, more or less, for the pumper truck. We're using a 12-year approach on the pumper truck for payoff on it. And that, for 3 years, would wipe out the $245,000 to $250,000 reserve that we have for trucks, because we still have to pay the original debt we have on hand right now. So we would wipe out the reserve, and so every other dollar that we would need for the ladder truck and the pumper minus the 180, the 150 essentially would have to come out of our pocket entirely. And that's where the concern is. We don't have the ability to afford that, because we have some other things we have to do with respect to DPW building, the court building, our water tower, and other things along the way. We have to start fronting money. And so he was much more open to the idea of talking to his board. I've got to finish writing up the email. I promised him I'd give him the full idea, which was essentially the 35 to 25. We wouldn't press him for any more truck purchase money for 5 years. So essentially we're saying this would be it, these 2 trucks for 5 years that we would ever seek their assistance with. That we'd get groups together next year, and there was one other piece of it, but you get the gist of it. Essentially, something to that we would order the ladder truck in good faith based on their good faith. Though not guaranteed anything, I think we all agree that at least if we're moving in the right direction, it's worth taking the risk at that point, as long as there's more money on the table for us, for them, and everything else. So He's willing to shop that around to his board to see what their views are. And their meeting is Wednesday of next week. So I would like to make a motion for us to set a special meeting on Monday, December 16th at 6:30 PM at 66 Front Street for the purpose of discussing the Town of Milton Fire Protection District Number 1 contract with the Ballston Spa Fire Department and Village, and any other matters that need to be dealt with at that meeting at that time.
And just to be clear, because some of the concern that has been brought up was timing with their meeting. I also, there is a contract presented to us, and again, fire chiefs that have discussed this with us, just don't want that to be hindered if this is not going to be accepted, this other proposal.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're responding to Milton in a timely way.
And there were assurances in both directions today. I assured him, God forbid, they need to go past January 1st because they have to do public hearing stuff and whatnot. If it ever got to that, we would not cease our fire protection. We've had this discussion before. We didn't do it for 8 months this year in any way, shape, or form. We had no contract, so obviously we're good on that. He, in return, stated they will not detrimentally affect us by this whole discussion because we're having an earnest discussion right now. So I take him at his word on that stuff as well.
So, sorry, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead? No, please.
So I guess my thoughts are, based on discussions we had with the fire chiefs, next week's meeting, either we're approving what your proposed
Or the-
increase, or we're approving the original contract.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And I would guess I would ask Chief Bayshore, does that work for you guys, for you?
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, if we can get the additional 35,000, that would be excellent. That would help us operate without cutting into our capital reserve fund for the apparatus. So we do have a new truck coming in the spring.
May, right, is what they said, I
Been
think.
2.5 years
Yeah.
in building, and I agree, we need to move forward because the ladder truck is over 20 years old. It's got issues right now that can't even be fixed because it's so old. It's still operable, but we need to start the replacement process.
And that's my biggest concern, honestly, down the line here. The pumper is obviously old too, don't get me wrong, but the ladder truck, the need of it is becoming greater and greater with what's being developed in the towns outside the village especially. And so we need to take a really good look at that one. The repairs are eating you up alive in terms of your budget right now. And so there probably will be some cost savings there. So maybe, obviously the discussion, we'll have to take that into account. We'll take a look at what the annual repair totals were for the ladder truck that hopefully go away for the first few years of a new ladder truck at the very least. But obviously, we first need to get a new truck in position so that we don't have to keep sinking that money in. So it's a balancing act. This is not fun by any stretch of the imagination. And, it is very serious stuff we're talking about here ultimately with respect to this fire department and what their needs are going to be down the line and what the residents that are being served by them's needs are throughout the towns and village. I request, technically I made the motion, and so if anybody wants to second the motion for the special meeting.
What time?
6:30?
Make the motion.
Well, I made the motion, you
Oh,
just
I
be
seconded
seconding.
it.
Yep,
I seconded it.
no problem.
Who seconded it?
That was Mary, sorry, Price Push. Discussion.
Just, Carla, can you walk us through the timing with Town of Milton? Because Jim had reached out, correct, about
Yes.
hearings and whatnot.
Sure. So as we've discussed in the past, the town has to hold a public hearing, and the public hearing has to be noticed on 10 days notice. The town's next board meeting is next Wednesday. So at their meeting next Wednesday, they're going to have to pass a resolution to set the public hearing, which would then not be able to occur until December 28th, 29th, probably. So ultimately, whatever contract this board decides to approve should be approved prior to the December 18th town board meeting. And so otherwise, there's really no way to get a contract in place by the end of this year when your current contract is over with.
Technically, it's a spontaneous motion. As such, we allow 90 seconds for public comment from anybody in the room or on Zoom. If anybody on Zoom would like to provide public comment as to this motion for a special meeting, knowing what the topic is, you are more than welcome to raise your hand or to raise your hand here as well. So any discussion or public comment rather this time? Seeing none and seeing none.
Quiet room today.
Discussion amongst us continue.
So I know in the past, we have put a lot of value on not requiring staff to have a second meeting in December. I don't know if there's a way to minimize staff time for this meeting or.
Usually we do on special meetings. I take the burden on that usually, so we're usually okay on that.
That's good.
Yep.
Thanks. And I'm glad we are continuing to use NICOM as a resource for making sure that, everything that we need to do, we're doing according to plan. And so thanks for getting everything in order on that regard.
But they are not a mediator. We did confirm that they will not do mediation, correct?
Yeah, I did want to pop in that I spoke with counsel at NICOM last week with respect to the discussion last meeting as to AOT and NICOM being mediators, and it was verified that they never offered to be a mediator. They offered to have a discussion with the village, as the village is a member of NICOM, and advised the town to have discussions with Association of Towns, as they are a member of the Association of Towns. But there was no discussion of mediation because that's really not their role, and that's something the boards are going to have to figure out on their own.
Thank you, Carla.
And you verified we do not need a public hearing, but the volunteer firefighters also need to sign off on this contract. I don't know, has that ever been done in our history?
The companies and probably not.
Yeah, that is something that has to be done. And I have advised Attorney Craig as to that. And I believe the chiefs know that as well. Under the general municipal law, it's required that the fire companies give consent. And under the comptroller opinions, consent means that they sign the contract. So it's the president of the associations. Each individual association will sign the contract. And so that is something that is required. It has not been required here. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it was just an older contract. It slipped through the cracks. That's not unusual with municipalities, but this is something that definitely has to be done. And no, to your point, Ben, we do not need to have a public hearing because we're not the ones that are spending taxpayer dollars. We're the ones receiving taxpayer dollars. So the town has to hold a public hearing because they're spending taxpayer dollars.
Now, do the firefighters have to sign the contract before the 18th?
No.
No one is signing the contract before all three boards or all three parties have agreed to the contract. So even if you folks do decide that you're okay with the contract next, I don't know when you said you were going to have the meeting, Monday. You're not to sign the contract until after the public hearing for the town.
Okay.
And Carla, just to be clear, because you and I discussed it, now the fire companies, their associations can authorize the fire chief to sign it, correct? Or is that not the case anymore?
Yes, no, that's absolutely the case. And that's what I've done in other municipalities where associations just are not comfortable putting their names on the contracts for whatever reason, that they then send a letter to the board and they authorize the fire chief to sign it. Under the statute, the fire chief can't sign it because he's a department head. So I have done it with a letter. I just wanted to be clear though that the association signing this does not bind them to any monies or anything like that. It just means that they're going to provide the services. They're consenting to this contract.
Chief Bayshore has a kind of questionable look on his face right now. Do you want to ask anything while you have the opportunity?
Well, our associations have really nothing to do with fire service. Each company has our own nonprofit organization head, president, vice president, whatever.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with the operations of the fire department. I am the head of the fire department.
Are you a chief for both companies, I guess is the question?
I'm elected by both companies, yes.
So technically, Carl, if that's the case, he could sign on behalf of both companies, could he not?
No. And I can talk to the chief about that. I can talk to the chief about that, but with respect to chief, with respect to the way it works, it's not, the volunteer firefighters are not employees of the village. They are members of the association. My understanding is that all of the firefighters are members of the associations. Is that correct?
They are members of both corporations.
Right.
They're not
Well, corporations are associations, correct. And because of that, the president of the corporation, of Union and of Eagle, Matt Lee, are supposed to sign the contract. They can authorize you to sign the contract as the fire chief, but because you are the village fire department head, that's a title that's different than fire chief. And the statute's clear, and this is something that I've worked with actually John Mancini on for other municipalities. The fire chief you can sign if your bylaws say you can sign. You and I can chat about that. That's really more semantics than anything. It has nothing to do with the real substantive portions of the contract. But Chief, if you want to, if we want to talk tomorrow, we can absolutely do that.
And I can vouch for, I saw some of this last week when we were going through different things, and it's there. I'm surprised myself, to be honest with you, but it's there.
It doesn't make any sense, so that's why it's law.
There you go.
As a lawyer, I'll just say all in favor of the special meeting.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No new business. Public comment on any issue. You'll have 3 minutes. 1 second, Marilyn. You'll have 3 minutes to give your comment. This will be a good time if you're on Zoom and want to give public comment on any issue to provide it at this time. Now, Marilyn, no, God, I'm here for the first time tonight. We'll be doing this and probably the other way.
Jen, for you and Terry. Hi, Marilyn Stevenson, 45 West High Street, and excuse my back, yes, I can stand.
This is the only microphone, you're saying?
Yep, you speak loud enough. Go ahead to the podium. You'll be fine there.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Zoning Advisory Committee, and I do most of the publicity for the volunteer group. I just gave the trustees and the mayor a packet, which basically updates all of you with the breaking news. The Zoning Advisory Committee has scheduled the next public rezoning workshop for March 20th, 7 p.m. And I would just ask you all to encourage your neighbors, friends, and other interested parties to save the date for that meeting. Tonight, I just wanted to share with you a summary of the first workshop, which just recently got posted to the village webpage, although it's a little hard to find, but I'll talk to Jen about that. Our consultant has summarized the public's feedback from that workshop that was held in October, and I'll just quickly go through that, and I think Sean told me I could take more time this month at this meeting, but anyway. Most of the public that attended, by the way, over 80 people attended, 61 people actually signed into the register, and we asked the public about various zoning boards. Participants were in support of accessory dwelling units and short-term rentals if regulated appropriately in the village. They were also supportive of improving building exteriors and adopting design standards in the highway business corridor. That's basically Route 50. Participants supported mixed-use development but want the village to preserve the area's character with no high buildings or over-commercialization of the village. Now, regarding the question that the consultant posed about updating the zoning map, participants support retaining the historic district to maintain the architectural character of the village. Participants have concerns about the transition districts which were originally identified in the comprehensive plan. And the concern is how they will impact adjacent residential areas. Participants also support home-based businesses as long as those businesses don't create extra traffic in the village. There is support for compact residential housing, which was recommended in the comprehensive plan, and it was also identified on the zoning boards as cottage houses. You'll sometimes see that term interchangeably. And finally, participants asked the village to protect the historic charm that attracted residents and small businesses to the village. So that's a very fast summary, but what I've provided to the trustees and the mayor is basically that in detail directly from the consultant who has summarized that. And I'll also show you a map that I've included in the packet.
Marilyn, your 3 minutes.
And it's basically all the red dots where people actually came from in the village and outside to attend that meeting.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, anybody else? Liz?
Liz Cormos, 89 Hyde. I have 3 topics. The first one is to let folks know that there will be a public hearing in the village, in the town of Ballston on Wednesday, December 18th, on the next phase on the Rossi PUDD, or the PUD, which consists of 36,000 square feet of warehouse space plus 12,000 square foot of retail. This is a chance for the public to comment on this next phase for the site plan approval. One issue that I potentially have is the lack of addressing traffic. Although this phase may not generate a lot of traffic, they are still basing their analysis off a 2011 traffic study. So, and there's been a lot of development since then. So I would think it would make sense for the town to update the traffic counts and see, where this project stands in relation to current traffic. Second topic is I have a question, where is the repair that was necessary, was stated about 2.5, 3 years ago on Village Hall? Where does that stand? Has that occurred? And also the plans for DPW, I believe, should have been done by now, and where are those? Thank you.
Okay, next. Anybody on Zoom? And nobody else in the room? And at this time, it is other business, including but not limited to board response to public comment. We don't have the lights on the microphone still. What we do, we have a last second, Christine with the hand, it looks like. Christine, saved by the bell, right there. Mike Bayshore saw it and he said, let Christine talk. Go ahead.
Okay, I hope, can you hear me? Yes, my mic.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to comment and to thank, as both a resident and a former elected official, I'd like to thank Jeff Gories for his years of excellent service to the residents and to the municipality. Jeff is a very hardworking, conscientious individual, and he provided great work to the village, both as the working supervisor and as the superintendent of public works. So thank you very much to Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, now would be that time for other business, including but not limited to board response public comment. Anybody?
I just want to thank you, Marilyn. There's a lot of great material in here, a lot of good info. And is this somewhere public? Is it on the
It's
ZAC?
on the village website, under the municipality tab, kind of at the ZAC's hot link, but it really needs to be elevated up so other people can find it. You don't know it's there unless you know it's there.
So, but we do have this public, it's just folks gonna have to hunt a
You
little
have to
bit.
dig, yeah.
Okay. Well, I certainly encourage everyone to make that pursuit and check this out, because there's a lot of great material in here. And I appreciate all the work that the ZAC's been doing in that regard.
Come back to me, I forgot something that I gotta look up.
We'll talk slowly so you can.
Someone else maybe?
Everybody else on this side.
Well, I've thanked Jeff personally, but I also want to express in a public forum my appreciation for everything he's done. He's always been wonderful to work with in all my communications with him, and certainly is a conscientious hard worker, so we're really going to miss him. I don't know if there's any kind of special goodbye event, party planned or anything that we'd want to do.
I think his
or-
wife's got something that
Okay.
she's conjured up, so
Okay.
I'm not sure who she invited or didn't, so.
Right, well, I just wondered if the village wants to do something, but it would be appropriate, 18 years of history here, so thank you to Jeff for all your contributions to this village. Is there any update on Village Hall, or?
Yes, after speaking with Jag, who's looked at it, and we've taken this back to Labella, and we've got to flesh it out, after Jag had to focus on the union apron back when. Tim Barber, who is a cement and concrete specialist, believed that what we were being told and what was being designed was highly, let's say, overdone. That his belief is that the sidewalk hasn't moved in over a decade, and that basically the only need we really had here is to take off the crown, refortify the face, and recrown the retaining wall. With respect to the vault, there were a couple of different ways to handle it, short of some of the overkill that was being proposed as well. So we're waiting to kind of wrap back with him here at this point to see, because we're talking the difference between spending $500,000 and maybe $50,000.
Wow.
And so I think it's something worth taking a look at, Plan B.
So is the design change gonna be stamped by a PE?
That's what part of the conversation would be ultimately. So that's why Labella's kind of working with us on that. We were going to focus back on that when we get a chance to. So.
In DPW, they must be close to wrapping up their study, or they have a study with us now. But what's our next steps with DPW and getting that?
The PW building?
Yeah.
We've got a plan that is conceptual, and with new leadership, I want to walk through what they think of that, and then, go through one more draft, basically based on their reactions, anything that's missing or needed ultimately. Originally, we were presented an $8 million plan. We aren't the town of Milton. $13 million is nice if you got it to spend on a highway garage. It ain't us. But basically asked for a $4 to $5 million plan to see what we could come up with. Essentially, it took a line right down the middle of it and said, there you go. But no, there's some things they liked about it, some things they didn't. And so we have to really walk through what they want and need and get one more rendering before I feel comfortable going forward with that.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes. I did fail to mention the Revitalized Boston Spa, our BOA committee. Our schedule is an every other month meeting schedule. And since we're not having we're having a special meeting, but it's early. I just wanted to remind folks that our next meeting will be on Thursday, January 9th at 7 p.m. in the village office, And even though we're not meeting in this month, currently, Labella, Norabella, our consultants and the folks working for us are working on a more public-facing website to inform people about what we're working on, kind of what the hopes are. And as we progress, it'll just be a place that hopefully can gain interest from people that might want to invest in our community. And not only that, just to have folks understand what we're doing. That's in addition to what will be on the village website. There is a landing page there for like our meeting summaries and just general information there. But they're working on the more fancy website for us, and yeah, January 9th at 7 p.m. here for the next meeting.
Anybody else? We do have a need for executive session to discuss a union contract, and Jennifer Moskowitz will be joining us in that discussion as well. Can I get a motion to go into executive session with action likely to be taken after the executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Fontaine, Trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? You are all welcome to stay right here. Jen, if you want to stop or pause recording and take off video and audio, we should be good to Okay, we are exiting executive session at 9:08 p.m. I would like to make a motion, so I make the motion to amend the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between the Village of Balsas Spa and the Teamsters representing Department of Public Works employees in the following manner. To increase the hourly pay of, let me think the best way to do this, all employees except for those to be named by $2.50 per hour starting on January 1st, 2025, and increasing that $2.50 by 2.5% on June 1st, 2025 and June 1st, 2026 again. For the working supervisor, the work leader, and the crew leader, $1.50 per hour, inflated in the same manner. To provide stipends in the following manner, to the working supervisor, $10,000 to be inflated in the same manner. To the work leader, $8,500 to be inflated in the similar manner, and to the crew leader, $4,500 to be inflated in the same manner, and to authorize the mayor to execute such amendment after review by attorney.
I'll second.
Seconded by Trustee Fontaine. Discussion.
I would like to include an amendment to that the working supervisor will be required to take the civil superintendent civil service test when it's next available.
I will not accept. Okay, further discussion?
So my objection to this whole process is that we got this piece of paper as we were walking into the executive session. We have had no conversations about this at all prior to that.
Well, Sean actually had a brief conversation with me on Friday. Out of clarity here.
You just, out of thin air, created a motion that none of us could repeat. It's not written down. If Bernadette and Mary, who are about to vote for this motion, had to, they couldn't repeat exactly what you said. And it's just not proper. I asked for us to have some time to think about this motion, and the most significant piece is that we are eliminating what was Jeff's position as non-unionized manager, and that requires some consideration beyond a half-hour executive session. And we had a special meeting in 1 week, and we requested that we be allowed to think about this and come up with additional questions or concerns. be able to consult with the labor lawyer potentially. None of that is allowed. There's no reason given for why this has to happen immediately and couldn't happen at the special meeting in 1 week. But we're just getting railroaded through here, and the mayor's going to do what he wants to do, and the people of this village are not being well served because we are not able to give adequate consideration to this motion that is actually very significant restructuring of the DPW, and it's just too bad that that's how we're choosing to do business here on partisan lines like that.
Okay. So, to correct a couple of records here, the superintendent position would remain vacant for the time being. It's not being eliminated.
It's not being funded, right?
It's not being funded.
Well, you can choose to fund it at a later time. At this point,
Your intention is.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The biggest problems we have encountered right now in our DPW garage are related to pay. We, at $20 an hour, which is up from $18.50, I mean, we've begun to try to do something, but still didn't have the resources to go the right route. The town of Ballston, town of Milton, and town of Malta right now are between $26 and $28 an hour for CDL entry-level laborers. I mean, we can't compete. The Teamsters healthcare plan that we just had approved with the original MOU will make it more viable, but still people want the money. And to go to $22.50 is going to help get retention finally in those positions.
Yeah.
In addition, to make the statements you made, I would think is impugning of folks like Scott Kearns, Glenn Bowers, Mike Morrissey, Tommy Thompson, and Steve Brooks as people that are probably more well known than any one of us when they go through the community, because they're the people that actually are boots on the ground, that do the work that everybody sees, and to suggest that they're anything short of loyal and love this community. Excuse me.
No one suggested
You were
that.
inferring that from no evidence.
Excuse me.
Nothing was said.
Both of you,
related to that.
excuse me. It suggests it indeed what you said, and I want to make it
No,
clear.
absolutely not
Okay,
true.
folks,
It's not based on
folks,
fact.
you're
Stick
always
with reality, Frank.
okay. Ben, you've taken me into ethics for things like this. Relax and at least listen, and then you can say what you want to
You're
say.
insulting me, Frank. So I did not impugn anybody.
Honestly, we just vote on this.
Well, you're going to demand discussion, so that's the problem. So we'll get through
Yeah,
that.
that whole free speech thing, what a problem.
He's indulging it. I say we just vote. We have the votes for it.
Oh, so you
I
are
think
for
we-
censorship.
I think we discussed it at length in executive session, so I think we just.
Yes,
follow
but
the
now
same
we're in
page.
public and the public has no idea
You guys
what's
have said your
transpiring.
piece. You guys have said your piece.
We haven't said it in a public forum
You're
where
in a public forum.
it's
This is
on a
also-
meeting and recorded, so as many people as humanly possible can
fine.
find
It's
out
being
what's going
recorded.
on. I
It's-
don't know what's wrong with transparency.
It's being recorded right now, so it'll be up online. So you guys have met your piece. You disagree with the process. That's fine.
I have many more points to make.
Okay, but honestly, I say let's call a vote.
Are you calling?
I am calling for
Will we call the
Well,
question?
Sean has
Call
the
question.
right at this point to
I
discuss
just-
the motion.
What I
We'll give him
see,
a time. He hasn't said
That's fine,
anything,
sure.
actually, so we'll give him
what I
time.
see here in this sheet is stipends for only the high-level employees. I don't see any stipends for new employees, which would actually entice a $2 difference from base pay to when we already stated that average pay is $26 an hour. That's clearly not an attempt to retain or get new employees. What I see here is stipends for the highest paid employees.
Who would
So
you
I'm not
prefer?
really sure, I don't think we have to do that to retain them.
You're adding management functions beyond what they're doing currently to the work technically, or at least in their job descriptions.
We just had a discussion at length that they're doing the job now, so that
Right,
is
and-
untrue.
Right, and they're not being paid for it.
Well,
Okay, so
but
how do you
they're
retain
getting
somebody in
paid
that
for the
route?
working supervisor position, yes, no.
He's being paid as a working supervisor, yes.
And you're saying the
You're saying
DPW
you're-
superintendent was not being the working supervisor, correct? So
Well,
that
that
was
was
a
your-
completely different role.
That was your choice. Yeah, before I got in power, I think you actually were sitting in the meeting, but it was 4-1 at that point in time. Or 3-1, either
I don't
one.
remember.
Either one, but it was before we got into power, I'll tell you that
But-
much.
Again, the original premise of this was the stipends were to entice and get employees, but
They're
the only
getting-
stipends I see are for the
Right,
highest paid employees.
The stipends were to compensate for the additional work that would be done.
And
That was
leadership-
said, it was not a bonus, we clarified that. It is to compensate for additional work that they would take on because we are opting to go this different route and not to fill the
But based
superintendent
on our
position.
conversations, they're not taking on any more work than they're currently doing.
Yeah, I'm not aware of what new work,
Yeah.
especially the ones, below the top person, what are they doing?
They're all now going to be obligated to answer calls late at night on anything that comes up. They're all going to be obligated to do management roles. They were doing it discretionarily before because sometimes they needed to function it. So now we're obligating.
So this is the kind of thing you write down. This is why we're giving them 4,500, 8,500, 10,000. We are adding this.
You had an
bullet to their
You
responsibility.
had an hour to ask the question. I don't know why you wouldn't have asked that question if that was your concern about it. That's a
Well,
basic
Sean,
question.
Yes, that's a good question and it should be in writing. See, people should know, this is why I'm
Ben,
getting the
Ben.
stipend.
Ben,
Mhm.
it's unbelievable to me. It's a great question. It's a good question. You sat there for an hour, you didn't ask the question. I put together an entire chart of the old MOU versus the new MOU and everything that changes in it. Took my time with it to get to you.
This is
In
why-
an executive session, which is where it's supposed to be disseminated because it is a discussion about a union contract.
This is why I
Correct, but
asked
now we're
repeatedly.
making a motion, so all information is public.
Correct.
And this
so-
is why I asked repeatedly for more time to think about all the questions we might have, all the documentation we might need. Because when you're sprung on with something without expecting it, it takes time to process and think about.
Carly, do you have a concern right now? Hi.
I do have a concern because a lot of what you're discussing is properly executive session material. It really doesn't have anything to do with the motion itself. I just wanted to, caution you all that this is executive session material that you're discussing in open session. You're absolutely allowed to discuss it in open session if you want to, but it is a proper executive session material discussion.
Yeah, we're not ready for a motion. That's what's evident right
Well,
now.
That's,
unfortunately,
I don't want it to, I didn't say that. I'm just saying the discussion itself is something for executive session.
It is spontaneous motion, as such, 90 seconds for any folks that want to give a public comment. Liz, you weren't recognized. Liz,
Thank you. Liz Cormos, 89 Hyde. Yeah, you're rushing it. It doesn't have to happen this week. Let the people look at the data. If you're just increasing the long-term employees, they're not going anywhere because they're gonna retire in a few years. You should really be concentrating on their replacements, the new people, and get them trained and in place. And if you want to give increases, I think it's a mistake to have the supervisor be a union employee, primarily for the reason of overtime. I mean, these people are gonna take on more responsibilities because they're gonna work more hours and make overtime on it? Is that what's gonna happen? It doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't believe, and you can do the research and tell me, that most municipalities do it this way. Thank you.
anybody else? Christine?
Okay, I have a couple of concerns. This is a collective bargaining agreement. I don't recall at any time the term stipend being defined in the collective bargaining agreement. So I don't think you can make up a concept and put it in a collective bargaining agreement without actually collectively bargaining it. number two, I think that there is you're talking about people taking on management responsibility, which you cannot, under a collective bargaining agreement, actually have people working out of title. They're either management and salaried, or they're part of the collective bargaining unit. You could have at some point a problem also with some of the lower level newly hired employees who could bring a cause of action over the fact that people within the bargaining unit are working out of title, that they already have been and that they could continue to be. I mean, this is not, and you do not, with just from my experience with collective bargaining, you do not give up management slots. You don't do it. It's a poor, very poor management strategy.
Christine, your time's up. Thank you. Just to answer about stipends, we actually discussed it with Teamsters leadership, not our employees, but Teamsters leadership about this, and they said it is frequently done. So it actually is done. And Sean, you were actually telling us about how that system in the state at this point, when we were having that general discussion about it. So it is something done.
But it's in the contract. Correct, but it was written in the contract.
Right, but we're doing an
Right, but
MOU.
it's written, the only reason it can be done is because it's in the contract.
Right, we're amending the
Just an
MOU. That's what this motion is. So that
Okay, that's the collective bargaining agreement? We're amending that?
we're amending the MOU, which is going to basically finalize the end of the agreement now.
So that needs to be written down.
Ben,
How can we vote on something you haven't written down?
Ben, I just
said
made
it.
the motion that stated it. I said it in the room
stipend?
too.
And he said, yeah.
So
The definition of the stipend?
When's the next negotiation on collecting bargaining agreement?
There's not going to be a negotiating session. We're going to amend the former agreement with the MOU contents and all the minor things that we all flagged along the way that needed to be fixed and get that final.
So this will be, the MOU will amend the existing collective bargaining.
The MOU, the amended MOU is amending the MOU that was going to be amending the collective bargaining agreement. So, does that make sense?
Not
This,
really.
this amends the MOU that was originally going to be used as that document you're talking about. So this would just be the change.
So there should be a definition written down about what of a stipend, like a specific definition. This is who gets a stipend, how it works, how it's paid out.
It was just stated. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Excuse me. I'll amend. The payment of stipend will be done during, or will be divided by the number of pay periods and paid out as such.
I accept that.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, and how many other amendments that we're not thinking of need to be added? We'll never know.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Baskin?
No?
Trustee Raymond?
No.
Trustee Valdez?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes, 3-2, the motion carries. Can I get a motion that the vouchers be audited and the meeting be adjourned at 9:25 PM?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa,
I'll second.
trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. See you Monday.
Yes.
There you go.
Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead. It's halfway off.
Did Ben still need to sign?
I think he signed it, right?
Yeah. Turn it at me, I can grow that. Sorry.
Do you guys want food?
I might just go home. I'm exhausted.
Are you coming down?
Yeah, probably.